Saints, good evening. Tonight's class will come from Luke 16, verses 1 through 11. It is the parable of the shrewd manager. Verse 1, Jesus told his disciples, there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and asked him, what is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be manager any longer. The manager said to himself, what shall I do now? My master has taken away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do, so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses. So he called in each one of his master's debtors. He asked the first, how much do you owe my master? 900 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager told him, take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 450. Then he asked the second, how much do you owe? 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. He told him, take your bill and make it 800. The master commended the dishonest manager because he acted shrewdly. Now, look at here, okay? Jesus is bringing to light the power of covetous behavior. Look at the actions of the Lord and the manager, okay? The manager knew that he had to go and get right in the house of his Lord. The world will put in more time, more effort, more blood, sweat, and tears, and things of this world in their earthly lives to be right and make themselves right for other people than they will for the heavenly realm, okay? Look at verse 2, okay? In verse 2, the manager had to give an account to his Lord of his servitude. The same is true for us. Romans 14:12 says, so then every one of us shall give an account of himself to God. Look at verse 3 and 4. The manager knows that what is at stake. He knows that pain, grief, and gnashing of teeth is before him if he doesn't do what's right in the master's house. So he does what it takes to keep his place in the Lord's home. We must do the same thing. Luke 14:28 says that we must count the costs. We must know that heaven is out there waiting for us, so is hell. Hell is a real place. So we must count the cost. The cost of being a worker for the Lord. The cost of having the covering of Christ upon us and having the duty as a Christian to live and spread the word of God. As a Christian, you have to remember, you are a servant because the master chose you first and then you chose him. You belong to the master. The Lord is your master. You are a manager. Now, how are you working for the manager? Let's look at verse 8. Jesus says, for the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. The people of the light is us, the saints, okay? They're more cunning, more wise in things that are of this world. They will put in more blood, sweat, tears, time, effort in things of this world than we will for things of heaven. Look at verse 9. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Your wealth, saints, is a blessing from God. How are you using your blessings to glorify the master? You are to use the things of this world to glorify God, to glorify the master, to glorify the Lord. 1 Peter, the 4th chapter, verse 8 says, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. Each one of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others. Once again, I'll read that again, verse 10. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. Go down to verse 10. Luke 16, verse 10. Now, Jesus says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So, if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? Worldly wealth. That thing that we shed blood for. That thing that you got that got you hating your brother, hating your sister. That's not true wealth. In James 5, 1 through 6, James talks about how wealth corrodes, how wealth rots, how the love of wealth is destroying us and fattening us for the slaughter. It is killing us, y'all. Covetous behavior is killing us. So what is true wealth? What should you be putting in blood, sweat, tears, time, effort for? Well, look at 1 Timothy, the 6th chapter, 17 through 19. Verse 17 says, in this world, that they be not high-minded,